Oh, yeah. Oh, okay. Okay, we'll call our Health and Human Services Committee meeting to order. Privilege of the committee chair or any members, anyone? Now we'll move on to our resolutions. First is a resolution authorizing the chairman to sign an agreement. Fulton County Community Services Accounting and Fiscal Consulting Services Mental Health. As sponsor needs a second. Bill Strevey. Discussion. Move it. Next resolution authorizing transfer of funds for ordered forensic mental health services, mental health. Sponsor needs a second. Bill? Discussion?
Yeah, here we go. Another appropriated fund balance. What are the court-related expenses?
Jim?
Under the state's mental hygiene law, when the courts order somebody to a state forensic hospital, we have to pay half the bill. Individual in question hurt someone badly at St. Mary's Hospital and was in county jail and ended up spending a couple months in the state psychiatric hospital, forensic psychiatric hospital. One of our prisons. Very expensive. I blew my entire budget. I had $25,000 budgeted for this. I blew it all in. And there's still money left over. I'm talking my budget where I could to try and pay off as much of it as I can. But they insist that we have to pay the bill. I can't use their money to pay their bill.
Can we recoup any of this from mental health, public health, bodily health, health and health? I mean, you know, I understand there are crazy people out there, but, you know, the taxpayer keeps paying all this stuff, and these courts don't give a damn. These judges don't care. They don't pay a dime. It's like, you know, it's the taxpayer themselves. I'm sorry it happened to you, but boy, this is unbelievable. 20 grand for one person.
Yeah, the total bill is $46,000.
46,000 for all the damage. I mean, how do we restrain these people? That's what I don't know. If they go in a hospital, we have nurses, and they're not going to restrain them. But how do they restrain when we get them into these places? I mean, you know, we're putting a lot of people in jeopardy. I can understand. It's not you. I'm picking on you because I'm frustrated with these damn appropriations. But isn't there some sort of venue that we do when we bring somebody that's mentally ill or just crazy? How do we restrain him, and what kind of restraints? Because apparently he wasn't restrained, this person.
Well, not at the time in which
He was saying,
committed the assault.
We used to budget
It was an unanticipated attack on a professional.
all right, thanks, Jim. Thanks, Jerry.
Anyone else? Move it.
Move it.
All right. Last resolution authorizing chairman to sign early intervention county agreement preliminary escrow payment. I sponsored. Jeff Stark. Second. Discussion. Move it.
Move it.
Motion to adjourn.
Yeah.
Bill? Yeah.
I could. What? Wrong card.
I'd like to call the General Services Committee to order, please. First item is discussion item privilege of the committee chairman. Any other members have any discussion? I have one. Montgomery County is going through some upgrades for their power lines. We have two people here from Next Air Energy that would like to give a brief presentation. I'd like to introduce Tara Morgan and Louis Copeland.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We're going to hand out a couple of documents here. It's a fact sheet, give you some background and some information on this. And again, my name is Cope Coakley. I'm with NextAir Energy Resources. I'm with the Environmental Services Department. I'll be handling the permitting and community outreach for the project. It's kind of ironic. I'm an old New Yorker, but now I have to say I'm from Florida, but not that Florida. So a little bit of different feel here. There we are. So, but it's an honor to have the opportunity to talk to you tonight. Many of you in the communities have received letters, probably early July, from the Department of Public Service introducing this project that was initiated by the governor and his task force to look at the situation of New York's electricity system that has been struggling. Anyone know what tonight is and tomorrow? No? It's a blackout. We're on the eve of the worst energy impacting the United States in memory. And so tomorrow is the 10-year anniversary of the blackout. And this goes to the governor and his staff to look forward to making this a much more robust system. We'll go through some of the highlights of what the goals are. But really, his initiatives are really opening up some opportunities for new investment, reliability, and hopefully lower costs to the ratepayer. So I'll go ahead and get started here. So just again, in November 2012, the Public Service Commission initiated this effort to look at congestion. When I say congestion, think of a pipe that's just getting overloaded, and we're not efficiently moving power through that pipe. And so this is an opportunity now that's being looked at throughout the state, not just in Montgomery County, but there's numerous proposals throughout the state that are looking at this upgrades to the state transmission system. Obviously, you look, even driving today in the thruway, you see aging infrastructure, you see rusting lattice towers and those types of things. And certainly we've had a lot of experiences in this past year with Sandy, Hurricane Irene, being in Florida, we've had our challenges, and so the whole infrastructure system right now is under deep review. So again, the goal is to improve reliability and service to the customers, hardening this system that's in New York right now in a number of places, and improving business investment. If you have constraints where you can't get efficient power moved and at a good cost, then that causes investment opportunities perhaps to look elsewhere. And again, as I mentioned, this is an initiative developed by the governor. It was called the Energy Highway Blueprint. It's $1 billion investment. It could be more than that in the electrical infrastructure. And looking at two main corridors, mainly coming down from central New York down the Hudson Valley to the Poughkeepsie area, as well as some of the other proposals coming in from the west into the central Hudson Valley area. In this case, what we're here to talk to you briefly tonight, and I would like to get through this fairly quickly. I'll give you some background on NextEra, our proposal, and the energy blueprint, but leave some time for questions. And again, this is a kickoff. We'll be back here to introduce Tara. I think she's got her assignment of handing everything out. Tara, you want to introduce yourself real quick?
Yep. Hi, everybody. My name is Tara Morgan. I am Community Relations for NextEra Energy. I am also your local contact. So I just want to point out on this sort of back to front sheet, my phone number is on the back in that green box right there at the bottom. And I want everyone in this room to feel free to reach out to me with any questions or concerns you may have after this meeting. I live in Albany. I have no trouble to come out here and meet with you individually. And thank you for having us here today.
And you'll probably be getting another presentation shortly by one of the other companies that's looking in this area for improving the infrastructure. So again, the goal is to bring upwards of 1,000 megawatts of power down from the upper New York Valley into the southeast mid-Hudson area. Public Service, just some dates here on your handout. The Public Service Commission started this request back in January. We and Transco, a consortium of 6 transmission owners, looked at this regional area, starting at the Marcy substation just north of Utica, coming down through Montgomery County, coming down into the New Scotland area, and then crossing the Hudson River and eventually ending up in Pleasant Valley near Poughkeepsie. It's a 166-mile total transmission line of all the parts that comes together, and I'll get into some of those more details real quick. So April 22nd, the PSC started their process of of evaluating and setting up the procedures for how these bids will come in. So real quick, just as I mentioned before, a little high level. NextEra Energy, anyone know about NextEra Energy? We're the 5th largest utility in the United States, and so it's a little bit of a naming thing, but we just want to give you a little flavor and background. $65 billion in total assets. We have 3 main components. We have FPL, which is, I'll show you the area in Florida, Florida Power and Light. So if you've ever been down there, you probably paid a little bit in that electric bill. We have NextEra Energy Resources. We are the largest solar and wind power developer, largest renewables company by far, twice as much wind as anyone else in North America, with over 17,000 megawatts of capacity. And then NextEra Energy Transmission, which is part of this process, including some of our companies' subsidiaries, Lone Star in New Hampshire, and I'll get into some of those. So where are we? We're throughout North America. We're in Canada, and a lot of wind development in the Midwest. We do have power plants here in New York. Permitted a couple of power plants down in Far Rockaway. So we have had a presence here. I just came up from Watkins Glen, where we're working on a wind project down there. So we know the area. I grew up here, and I'm very familiar with some of the excitement that goes on in trying to develop these types of projects in New York. So again, on the transmission side, Lone Star, it was the first and largest company of ours that went out into this competitive market of transmission. The old days of transmission are gone. So what we're going to have now, and what the governor is proposing, is a competitive process to evaluate projects as they come in for upgrades and those types of things. New Hampshire Transmission, working on another project there from New Hampshire, the Seabrook area, down into Boston. So we have a large nuclear facility and transmission coming in from New England into Boston. So that's a very important transmission project. And a host of other ones from Alberta, Hawaii, tying all the islands together. We just won a project in Ontario as well. Integrity-wise, I think it's important that you know, maybe you don't know who NextEra is, but our peers do. The next HATS photo or slide here shows you that for 7 straight years, our peers in the oil and gas and electricity industry have recognized us as the top company. So you're going to get integrity and quality and cost effectiveness with any project that we're able to move forward with. A lot of existing infrastructure. We have over 8,000 circuit miles of transmission, 800 substations, as I mentioned, 26 states. We're a technology and innovation leader. I'll talk about that, the uniqueness to this project in just a second. $2 billion in capital expenditure in the last couple of years. And we built more transmission outside of our Florida service territory than anyone else in the United States. So again, here's the next slide on FPL. We basically hug the Atlantic coast, so we have 4.6 million customers. But again, Florida being relatively new, I used to have here when I first moved there, it's now become the growth place for transmission. So we have a lot of recent experience in new technology development at large scale as well as small scale. We've been very effective in budget and schedule performance. We've been always generally on time for our host of the types of projects that we do work on. And now moving on to what are our plans here for New York and building a cost-effective and timely alternating current or AC solution to New York. So our project scope basically is 3 projects. The main one being this 166-mile from the Marcy substation just north of Utica, following and using existing right-of-way through Montgomery County down into the mid-Hudson Valley, crossing over at Leeds, and then coming down the east side of the Hudson to Pleasant Valley. That's called the new Marcy-Princetown line. That'll be 71 miles. We're proposing to use existing corridor right-of-way. The Transco's, the other competitor in this situation, is also looking to do that. They're talking about removing existing structures and putting new structure in. That's what we're going to propose as well. So in the next one, you see a little map, kind of gives you a little sense of where we're looking. So again, there's Marcy coming down through Princetown, down New Scotland, Leeds crosses over the Hudson River and down the Pleasant Valley. There's an alternative that we're proposing with the Public Service Commission. Again, this is their decision ultimately, which of these, all of these proposals, not just ours, but several other the bidders that are in this process, what is the best for the grid. So it's not likely you would see the one on the right there, which is the Knickerbocker 345 option, and the Marcy to Pleasant Valley. One or the other of those two will likely move forward. We also have a third one that's in the west here, there's a problem getting from the Binghamton area over towards the Hudson River region, the Catskills region there. So that's a Oakdale Fraser 345 new line that we're also proposing. So in your neck of the woods, we have here in Montgomery County, the existing, which I'm pretty sure everyone's very familiar with, seeing the corridor that's up there now. So we'll be using the same corridor. So this is nothing, we're not going out and creating new right-of-way in another area, but that will be something in the siting process that we're going to have to look at alternatives. And if there are conflicts during the permitting process in our siting effort, if we find, the ancient Indian burial ground, or there's other conflicts that you all, as town supervisors, some unexpectedly come across, we'll have a diversion plan to go around that and deal with it. But in the big picture, right now, we're going to look at just using that existing corridor that cuts through all the towns in the southern half of Montgomery County. There's a couple of pictures there that show you the three structures that are in there right now. So we have three structures, and it's being proposed one or two of those structures could come out, and that'll allow us to utilize the existing right-of-way, cleared right-of-way, and no additional property being necessary. Again, we have to reserve that opportunity that if there's a conflict or for whatever reason we're not allowed that, then we're looking at expanding the right-of-way, and that's in our siting process now. There's also a lot of other things that we have to do. We don't have a defined route and structure yet, but I'll talk about the new technology that we're proposing. We still have to get out there and do geotech. So like you have to do with putting in infrastructure in towns, we have to do that also on the right-of-way here to make sure that the structures are safe and sound and meet industry standards. So again, we have some relative distances through each of the towns as they relate right now. Approximately 30 miles total to get through Montgomery County. And why is NextEra here for the solution? I guess one of the biggest things is cost. Again, this goes to the ratepayer. Somebody's going to pay for this, and the governor recognizes that it's time that we have to do these upgrades and improvements to the system. But we came in at less than half of what the other bid for this similar project was. So we're very cost effective. We've been very successful at keeping in budgets, and so we're very confident because of our relative technology proposed that we can do this. In service 2017 for all the legs of this segment coming down for this line. And that's years ahead of the other proposals that are on the table for not only here but elsewhere. We've had independent evaluations done of our design and our routing and the reliability and the power delivery opportunities, as well as we're looking at increasing the transfer capability. Again, that's important because this will open up opportunities for either new clean power plants, renewables, solar, wind in the region up here, now to better inject where there's now a constraint that perhaps can limit that opportunity. And this will be a very extensive process, and we're not in here to reach out to you for any kind of decisions tonight or goals or whatnot, but the Article 7 process, which I think we'll take at another hearing because it's a lengthy process, it's getting late. I don't want to bore you with that, but it is a very prescriptive process. It'll take us at least 2 years to get through this, and it'll be a very extensive community outreach and public interaction program, and Tara's going to be leading that charge where she's out with the communities, meeting with them. There will be, as part of the Article 7 process, there's no financial impact to the communities. If you want to do studies on electromagnetic fields or any types of other studies that affect your community, that's paid by a fund that comes through this process in the Article 7. So you can hire your experts, you can hire your attorneys to facilitate your involvement in this process and engagement. So like I said, it's going to be a very extensive process. It's managed by the staff of the Department of Public Service and overseen an ultimate decision by a siting board that's managed by the Public Service Commission. So again, community benefits, just to wrap it up. We've already done a fairly extensive look. We have not done a flyover, that's coming next, but we have driven all the routes here, looked at all the crossings. We don't see anything of significant consequence. We're doing everything humanly possible to avoid condemnation, where we can avoid house takings and those types of things which are traditional in those large, linear facilities that need right-of-way. There are going to be challenges here because there's natural gas pipelines in the right-of-way also we have to site around and have safe distances. Like I mentioned, the existing infrastructure that's there, those wires, they do sway, and so that's part of the whole design. That can also separate you if you have long runs and the wires are swaying. So a lot of ongoing work is still being done, but we're very confident that we can get through this. We've done it before. as I mentioned, this seeking of the existing rights-of-way is a really important one. And we may be looking for your support on that. I think, instead of us having to procure additional right-of-way, we think it's fair and appropriate and prudent to use the existing right-of-way if it's proposed by another bidder. So that's our process. We're going into, we've submitted that question to the Public Service Commission, allowing us to allow the incumbent utility that has the plan to remove those structures. We would pay for all of that and keep them financially neutral and no financial impact to the incumbent utility. Certainly, meeting with the community and understanding environmental sensitivity. We have some of the top environmental consultants working on this right now. In this case, TRC and Ecology Environment, New York-based firm, are helping us with our environmental permitting process. And so we have very good assessments of wetlands, endangered species, cultural resources, everything from Native American artifact issues and those types of things. We also pride ourselves on the visibility aspects, and so we'll do a lot of visibility studies where the visual impacts of something like this might happen. But I think at the bottom there jumps to our issue of the new technology. The one on the left in the bottom picture there is a double circuit spun concrete pole. It's not used in New York. We've totally committed to it in Florida, in Texas, throughout the United States. We're proposing for Canada as well. It's thermally been tested. What it is basically is just what it sounds like. You put a mold out there, and it's a very large mold. You put rebar and the proper materials in there to strengthen the pole. You spin it, and it's a hollow pole. So it's very light, but yet still has the very strong capability to handle the types of forces that you would have with wires on it. It also allows you to do adjustments to it. You can add more wires. You can add fiber optics if that's what's needed in the communities. You can add distribution lines and phone and those types of things. So it's a very viable thing. Again, we have not been able to say with commitment that we can do it because we have to look at geology. We have to dig a big hole, stick the pole in, compact it, make sure that that can work, and we also have to make sure that we can get it there. These are large structures. The one on the right is your typical lattice structure that you see throughout New York, and we think that this spun concrete pole is a definite benefit to the project that will save cost. It'll help the ratepayer. It'll help facilitate more opportunities for infrastructure on it as well. So with that, I'll wrap it up. I apologize if I ran a little late. I know it's getting late for you folks, but we really do appreciate it. Thank you for the opportunity to come to New York again, and look forward to seeing you all in the future. But if there's any questions, you can ask them now, or as I mentioned, Tara and myself, we're always available to follow up. We will have more technical meetings. If there's specific folks that you could recommend that we meet with, we'd be happy to do that, and look forward to coming to Florida.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Are you sending power downstate or are you bringing power up?
It could go both ways. It has the capability to go both ways. In general, the grid is a sponge. So where is the power needed? So Marcy is the main hub in the north area here of Utica. So you have a lot of those lake power plants, the nuke coming into that Marcy, and it does move downstream. What happens is that this will go to the next substation down the road here, which is Princeton. Princeton facilitates this regional area. So that helps the reliability of this area. Right now, as I mentioned, you have aging infrastructure going into Princetown, and that's one of the fixes. So you can have, again, this opens up very similar to what we went through with the blackout, where it started in Ohio and it cascaded down. Now you have these substations with better connections coming into it to be able to divert power. So is your question, is it all going to New York City? It's going to Pleasant Valley.
Well, we know that.
Probably. But yes, that is. But again, it does hit those substations to facilitate power in the Albany region, in this region here as well.
Any more questions?
Great, thank you very much.
All right, next on the discussion item is boiler annex building. And tonight, we've got Paul Faber, we can discuss that.
Good evening. This spring, we had a number of times where boiler in the annex building went out. And we It was trouble because it's actually been a fairly reliable heating system in the annex building. We've taken the boiler apart. It's roughly a 15 or 16 segment boiler. What we found is right now there's at least 2 segments that are leaking. One of them happens to be right over the pilot light, so that explained why we were having those. Well, it was almost every morning the boiler was out, and there were complaints of no leak and things like that. So through the process of dismantling the boiler, we found these problems with the segments. It's a 15, 16 segment boiler. Is it isolated to these 2 segments? Possibly for now, but for how long? The boiler dates into the 50s. It's a steam system. It's been reliable, but it's been in the middle of the Mohawk River 2 or 3 times. And between that and its age, so we're kind of faced with a quandary. We can look at repairing the segments that we know are bad.
So they're still available now, right? Well,
They're not available. We would have to repair the ones we have. We would have to get them over. And obviously, the other option is much more expensive. It would require a replacement.
Can that system be converted to hot water?
Because it's steam and the building is set up for steam, I mean, it could be, but you'd have to change out the radiators, everything would have to be changed out.
So the better scenario would be to do
To keep steam, right? From the people I've talked to, probably the best system, if you were gonna go with a new system, would be to, I'm not gonna remember the numbers off the top of my head, but instead of having one, almost 6,000 BTU boiler, which is what's there, what they're recommending would be a 200 BTU steam boilers. It would be more efficient. There are times of the year where one boiler would heat the entire facility. You could have a lead lag boiler, it extends the life. Those types of things would be options with a 2 boiler.
So Paul, what would be the cost of the 2 boilers?
The budget number that I have, and obviously it's just a budget number, it could be something we'd have to prepare specs for and go out to bid, but they're estimating the installation of the 2, removal of the existing would be roughly $175,000.
Whose recommendation is this, Paul? Or are you using it?
Well, our current contract is with Johnson Controls, so they're the ones that have assisted us with the investigation, tearing down the boiler, and it was one of their people that gave that budget. So like I said, it would be something that would have to be spec'd and bid.
Is it worth hiring a consultant to look at so you can make a smart decision here as to whether you're going to change over or not change over? Or just,
What's the budget numbers to repair?
175?
That's replaced.
Yeah,
That's
replaced.
replaced. We've had a couple of different fabricators come and look at them, but there's an unknown in that there could be cracks that they can't see sitting on the floor in the annex building once they get them in their shops. It's not terribly expensive. It might be roughly $1,000 a segment, $2,000 a segment, something like that.
So under 15,000.
They're still gonna have a $50,000, or 50-year-old.
Right.
Right, it's not gonna make it any newer.
Right.
And
No warranty, no guarantee.
We got a lot of fun now.
We should have built 5 years ago when we said we weren't going to build.
Tom?
Well, to Tom's point, I know that it fell on its face however many years ago it was, but you can't dump $175,000 to this I mean, I couldn't support that. I mean, you know, I talked last year, I know Dusty and I had a conversation of whether or not it'd be possible to move our printing shop and use FMCC for something like that, an adventure. I don't want to say an adventure, but for some sort of, you know, could we take the supervisor's office with the new legislation? You got to start piecemealing that building out and eventually shut it down, or do your building. I mean, this is just $175,000. So I'm not saying that it's not worth what the guy says, but to put it in a building that old, we're going into that building every day, freezing in one room in the middle of the winter, and so hot you got to open the windows. It just doesn't make sense to me. I realize you got to do something, but if you think about that office space that's in there and what's actually being used, there's a lot of hallways that were.
They have any payback analysis if you go with boilers, what it costs to heat?
Well, I mean, just looking at it on the surface, roughly, I think each boiler, you'd look at getting a $12,000 credit back, and so that there's $24,000. It's going to be as far as energy credits go, and what the reduction in our usage will be. Is there a payback? Yeah, I haven't dug into that to see what it is.
Well, it would be more economical, would it not? As far as
The operation of the new system would be more economical.
So there'd be a savings there.
If the building is ancient, 100 years old. It's a school. It was built as a school. If we ever brought Niagara, or whatever the hell they call themselves now, if we ever brought them in to do an energy, they'd laugh at all the stuff. We probably heat and air condition the outside, not the inside.
Yeah, there's no doubt that that is not an energy efficient building. I mean, it's one of those things. I think we've had a needs assessment committee since 2001. I mean, it's 2013, and we still have the building. We still have people working out of the building, and I'm just trying to keep it. You know, we've been keeping it going this long, and I'm just trying to keep it so we can continue to use it.
But there's been recommendations. There has been recommendations for new building, and it's fallen on deaf ears. And guess what? Now you're looking at bills of $175,000. Next you look at $250,000. It's an old building. It's old. I'm surprised it hasn't fallen down yet with all the floods down here. Plus you're in a floodplain.
Or you could just patch it up,
Yeah.
get you through this winter.
What's it cost you to do the heat?
I've got the information, but not off the top of my head.
Huh?
If hypothetically we put this new system in, estimated lifetime, we're looking at 50 years, 40 years, 30 years.
On a new boiler?
I guess the point I'm trying to make is, if say you estimated a long lifespan of 30 years, what is the odds we're going to be in there in 30 years? Probably not that good, so why would you put that in there?
I wouldn't say that.
Last time I ever.
I mean, the bricks will cave in at some point, won't they? Yeah.
No, actually, I mean, without joking aside, I think structurally the building's in decent shape. We've kept a good roof on it, and it's.
These community restructuring zones, Ken, if I could ask Ken, is Fondon one of the 102 communities? Is there a possibility that?
What would others be considered negative that way?
Well, they're looking at mitigation, right? They're looking at when you have issues with your municipal buildings or any buildings, mitigation. Mitigation isn't putting something back into the same spot where it flooded, it's putting it up on a hill. Or it's putting it someplace out of, you know, even this building during all the flooding that we've had hasn't really been affected by the floods, right? So when he did something here up on in a park or something, that's where that money's gonna come into play, am I right or am I wrong? That's worth it.
That's the program itself is still, we're still working through this.
Well, and I know from Irene and Lee, we're still working with FEMA on what they're calling mitigation for the Public Works building and the Annex building. And their plan for